Hi, I'm Ashley. This is Crafty with Ashley. Today I'm going to show you how to make this Crochet Cuddly car seat baby blanket. This is the perfect blanket for any baby shower to give as a gift for any new mom. I think every new mom should have a small car seat blanket. It's so convenient. And this crochet pattern actually crochets up really quickly. So if you're a procrastinator like I am and you wait till the last minute to start thinking about the gift, you could probably bust this out in a day or two and still have it ready in time for a shower. Below this video, you'll find links to both a chart version of the pattern, which you'll see me use in this video, and the written version of the pattern. I have them both available for you there. That way, if you prefer more of a pictorial reference, you can use the chart version. If you prefer the written out version, you can use that. Just choose whichever one you want. Go ahead and have that open for the video because you'll need it to follow along with the tutorial. So let's go ahead and get started with how to actually make the crocheted cuddly car seat baby blanket.
All right, so here are the materials that you will need to make the Crochet Cuddly car seat baby blanket. First off, the yarn. I chose Baby Bee Baby Lulu. This is available at Hobby Lobby. I have not found this yarn anywhere besides Hobby Lobby, but I do love it and it is super soft. This one is Sugar Plum, which is a light purple, and this one is Flannel, which is a super light gray. For my blanket, I'm going to be doing the hearts in the purple and the words in the gray. If you look at the back, you'll see all the details. It is a lightweight yarn, so a number 3, and you can see the ounces in the yards. If you decide to go with a different yarn, just kind of use that as a guide for how much you purchase. When I do this blanket, I do end up with very little of each color left. It uses almost the entire skein. So when you're crocheting, just make sure that you do the gauge swatch so that you make sure you don't run out. Because if you're crocheting looser, it's very possible that you could run out. So those are my 2 yarns. I do use a size G, which is a 4.25 millimeter hook. It's a lot smaller than the yarn suggests, and that's because I want a tighter stitch for this blanket. You'll need your darning needle to weave in the ends. Of course, if you prefer to use your crochet hook to weave in the ends, that's fine too. Scissors or whatever else you use to cut your yarn, and that's fine. All right, so you'll also need your pattern. So I prefer to work off of the chart. It just makes more sense to me. It's a lot less cumbersome for me to read it. So when you are working off this chart, you'll see a bunch of blank spaces and then the spaces with the solid dots in them. So basically every single one of the blank spaces is just a single crochet. Every dot is a bobble stitch. And I'll go over what the bobble stitch is exactly when we get to the first one. So this first row is 63 single crochets. You can go through and label how many it is if you don't feel like counting while you're doing the crocheting. So for example, like in between these 2 dots, you could count that up first and put how many so that you could just say, okay, now that's 14 single crochets and I just do it. Or you can count as you go. But every dot is a bobble. You'll see that between every dot there is a space, both across and vertically. And that's because you never put a bobble next to each other. They always have a single crochet between them. So let's go ahead and get started on how to actually crochet it. So because you can see we start at the bottom here on these charts, so I'm going to be starting right here, and we're starting with hearts. So I'm going to do the purple color first. And let's go ahead and get that purple started. So I have the end. I like to pull from the center. Just makes it a little bit cleaner in my opinion. All right. Now I'm just just going to kind of set this off to the side for right now. Now, the start of this is the foundation chain row. I'm going to have 63 single crochets, so I need to do 63 chains plus 1. So for a single crochet, you always add 1 to the chain. So 64 chains. All right, so there are my 64 chains. And then I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in the second chain from my hook. Now this yarn obviously has some fuzz to it, so if you're a beginner it could be a little bit more challenging to see where you're going, especially since we're using a small hook. But you don't want to go in the first chain, you go in the second one, and then you do your single crochet. And we're just going to do single crochets in every chain across. I do highly recommend counting to make sure that you have the right number of single crochets at the end of your first row. This is 60, 61, 62, and 63. So there's my first row of single crochets. Now, as you can see in the pattern, we're going to actually do 3 rows of all single crochets. So we'll go ahead and turn our work here. Now I do not do the chain 1 and then turn like a lot of people do. I just find that I get straighter edges when I skip the chain 1 for single crochet. So then I go into the very last stitch of the last row, first stitch here, and I'll end up with 63 single crochets again. 1, so just work those for the next 2 rows and then join me back for the next row, which will include bobbles. All right, so I finished those first 3 rows of all single crochets. So now that means we're coming to this 4th row, which has bobbles. We are going to be working from left to right on this row. And every row that has bobbles on it, you're actually working from left to right. And the single crochet rows are worked from right to left. So that kind of makes it easier because, you know, that's the way we read. So we're going to go ahead and turn our work now and start that row. So you can see there are 3 blanks. So I'm going to do 3 single crochets first. And now we come to our first bobble. To make the bobble, you're going to do partial double crochets 5 times, basically. So you yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're not going to finish our double crochet. We're going to go into the next step of the bobble, which is yarn over, go through the same stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you'll see each time you do it, you're going to add another loop onto your hook. And so I've done it 2 times, so I have 3 loops. So now I'm going to do it 3, and then I have 4 loops. This is my 4th time, and then my 5th time. Now, after the 5th time, you will have 6 loops on your hook. Now you're going to go ahead and yarn over and pull through all 6 of those loops. Okay, So that is your first bobble. And then again, you're going to do a single crochet next. You never put two bobbles next to each other. So in the next stitch, do a single crochet. And then we're going to do that bobble again. So again, it's yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two. Yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, pull through, stitch, yarn over, pull through two loops. It's 2, 3 times, 4 times, and we gotta do one more, 5 times. I have 6 loops, yarn over, pull through all 6, and then a single crochet. I like to do my bobbles with doing it 5 times because you get a really nice and defined bobble that way. Technically a bobble stitch, you can do it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. You can do it however many times you want and it's still called a bobble. But I like 5 times for this blanket at least. Now, as you can see, this row is literally just a bobble and then a single crochet, a bobble and a single crochet all the way across until you get to those last 3 stitches. The last 3 are going to be all single crochets, and that's so that you end up with a nice kind of single crochet border around your bobbles. It just kind of defines it a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and do those bobbles all the way across. Let's go over it one more time. We're going to do yarn over, insert hook into stitch, yarn over, pull through stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times, and then yarn over and pull through all 6. Okay, we're going to do that for the whole row. Okay, so I'm coming up toward the end here. I just did a single crochet, so my next one should be a bobble. And you can see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left to work into, which is perfect because I'm supposed to have a bobble. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, and then 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my work, and that brings me to the end of this row that's every other being a bobble. So now I'm going to do a row that is just all single crochets. Now, when you're working the single crochets, you're working on the right side of the work, which is the side that shows the bobbles. And we're just going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch across, so every single crochet and every bobble, and you will end up with 63 single crochets again, just like the first 3 rows. So let's start that row here, and you're working into these first 3 single crochets. Now when you get to a bobble, the single crochet that is right before it kind of sneaks underneath of it. So you're gonna want to make sure to catch that one and not skip it. So that was my 3rd single crochet. Oops. Okay. Now, when you're working into the bobble, if you kind of turn your work sideways, you can see that there are the V's for where you insert your hook, just like a normal single crochet, double crochet, any of them. So this is the V for the bobble stitch. So it's kind of tucked behind the bobble, but as long as you look there, it's pretty obvious to see where you're inserting your hook. So we're going to go ahead and put our hook into that V and do a single crochet. And then again, the next V, the next is a single crochet, and it's kind of tucked underneath the bobble. So put it there. And then we go in the next one. It's kind of almost like putting in your hook behind the stitch, but it is the right spot. And then again, kind of under the next stitch. And I just do this all the way across the row until I have 63 single crochets. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end of this row of single crochets. Finished my last single crochet into a bobble. Now I have the 3 single crochet border part. Okay, so I have my first row of bobble stitches done, and then this row of single crochets. So now I am coming to my next row that has bobbles. So I'm going to turn my work. Basically, know anytime you're on the wrong side of your work, which is the side that's flat, not the side that the bobbles stick out. Anytime you're on that wrong side, you're gonna want to be putting bobbles in. And that is important because some of these rows, like the next one that we're going to do, actually just has 2 bobbles, one at the beginning and one at the end. But if you forget it, you'll have a hole in your border, and you'll either leave it like I sometimes do because you don't want to pull out all your work, or you'll have to pull out all your work and go back and add it. And that can be really frustrating when you've just spent all that time. So I'm going to do my 3 single crochets and then a bobble. Every row with bobbles in it starts that same way and ends the same way, with 3 single crochets and a bobble. Okay, so you can see how when I turn my work over, those bobbles are going to end up being stacked right on top of each other to make our border here. Now in this row, all of the rest of the stitches are just single crochets. So we're just going to single crochet all the way across until we hit that 4th to last stitch, which is a bobble, and then we'll have our 3 single crochets again. So if you're counting this, you have 3 and then 1, right? And then you're going to do a bunch of single crochets and then have 1 and 3. And so if you're counting all your stitches, this bobble is going to be your 60th, so you're counting all the way across. This will be 60, you do a bobble, and then 61, 62, 63 are going to be your last 3 stitches there. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Just a bunch of single crochets all the way across. Okay, so I have now completed this row that has the 2 bobbles, one at the beginning and one at the end. You can see them here. There's the beginning one, and here is the end one. And then it has that little bit of a border around it with the single crochets. And then I completed the next row, the single crochet row here. So now I'm going to turn my work and go on to the next row that has bobbles. And here we're actually going to be starting our heart patterns. So we'll just kind of go over what that looks like here. And then it's basically just the same idea for the rest of the blanket, which is really nice. So we're going to start again with, we're on this row now. So we're going to start with our 3 single crochets and then a bobble. Okay. Now when we look at the pattern, I went ahead and wrote in this like highlighter yellow gel pen that I found the number of single crochets on some of these lines. So for here though, if you just count these boxes, there are 12 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just had to make sure. So that means we're going to do 12 single crochets, and then we're going to do this bobble, which is the very bottom point of the heart. Okay, so we have 12 and then a bobble. And then here, between these two bobbles, there's 14 single crochets. So after we do that bobble, we'll do 14 single crochets and then another bobble. The hearts are symmetrical, so it's going to be 12, 14, 14, 12. So it's nice and easy to kind of follow as you keep going. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll show you what it looks like on the other side. So we have 12 single crochets. Ten, 11, 12. And now I'm going to do a bobble in the next stitch. Okay, and then like I said before, the next space between bobbles is 14 single crochets. That's 13 and 14, and then another bobble. And then we have 14 again between the next two heart points. So 14 single crochets again. That's 14. Now I'm going to do the bobble for the third heart point. Okay, and then we have to do between the heart and the border, which is 12, just like the beginning. So 12 single crochets. Okay, and then as long as you counted right, you should have 4 stitches left to finish off the last bobble, which is the border, and the 3 single crochets. So I'm going to be putting a bobble right here into my 4th from the last stitch. And then my 3 single crochets. Okay, so now when we turn this over, we will see that there are the start of our hearts here. And we're starting at the bottom and working our way up. So each one of these is going to be the bottom point of the heart. There's going to be 3 equally spaced hearts there with this nice border all the way around it, as you can see on our chart. So basically we're just going to keep working our way up the chart, doing a single crochet row when you're looking at the bobbles on the right side, and then when you're on the wrong side, you're doing your next bobble row, and you just count the number of blank ones in between the bobbles, and that's how you know how many single crochets to do. So After we do our next row of single crochets all the way across, the next one will be the border 3 and then 1, and then you have 10 single crochets between these two bobbles, and then you'll do 3 single crochets and another bobble, and then 10, a bobble, 3 and a bobble, and you just do that across. And for the whole way up the chart, that's all you're doing, is counting how many single crochets and then putting in a bobble the whole way. So we'll go ahead and pick up again after we finish this first block of hearts and including this border, because then we will do a color change. All right, I'm coming up to my last stitch here, so I'm just gonna pause here and talk about what we're gonna do next. So when you look at this, you can see that I finished the hearts, I finished the bobble border all the way around, and I did another row of single crochets across in this same color. So that brings us to right here on the pattern, where we're about to start the next row of bobbles to give us the border around the words. And this is where we change colors. So after we change colors, then we'll just work this block and do the same thing. So we're gonna work back and forth, counting the bobbles, work all the way up, do this row to finish off the border around the word, do a single crochet row in that same color, and then change colors again back to the original color for the next block of hearts. So let's go ahead and go to how we change colors. So my other color is this light gray, same yarn, just a different color. And let me find the end here. Okay, so when we change colors, we're going to, I haven't done my single crochet into this last stitch yet. So I'm gonna do, start my single crochet, insert hook, yarn over, pull through, and then right there I'm gonna pause, and I'm actually gonna join my new yarn here to finish that stitch. And that's gonna give you a lot cleaner of a color change than if you tried to do it after the stitch, because then you'd have a little bit of purple sticking up into your gray. So now, right here, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my yarn. So I have enough to weave in, so I need to cut, not the gray one, because that's what I'm gonna be working with. I need to cut the purple one. Here we go. And then we can just set the purple yarn off to the side. Now, here, I'm gonna turn my work to start working the next row. And then these tails, I'm going to work over them so that I don't have to go back in and weave in these ends with a tapestry needle or with my hook. They'll already be worked into my project, and I won't have to spend that time at the end doing that. So now I already have my new color here, so I just start with my, looking at my pattern, I have 3 single crochets. So let's go ahead and do that. Single crochet into the first stitch, and you can see here I'm holding these 2 strands of leftover yarn, the tails, right on top of the stitches, so that when I bring my hook in, I'm going under those as well. And then when I finish the single crochet, I'm going over them, and that's going to hide them into the blanket after. So that was 3 single crochets, and now I'm going to work a bobble in the next stitch, just like the pattern shows. And the whole time that I'm working this bobble, I am just holding those 2 pieces of yarn there so that they get hidden. And this also helps just to secure that work, because we didn't tie a knot actually with the yarns that we cut. So if you don't weave in the ends, your project could start to unravel there. But so if you just look now, after I finished those couple of stitches, you can tell you cannot see those 2 strands at all through those stitches, and when you're on the right side you also can't see them, they just blend right in. So it's just an effective way to weave in the ends as you go and not have to take that time to do it at the end when you're all excited about being done with your project and then you realize that you still have ends to weave in. It's nice when you don't have to actually do that. So now I just continue with following the pattern. So this is a row of bobbles, so I'm going to do that. And that pretty much finishes up all of the things that you need to know about how to work the rest of this pattern. You just now work in your second color from here, which is row 24, all the way through row 43, which is this row of single crochets after the letters and the border. And then once you get to the end of row 43, you do your color change again, and row 44 is worked in the original color again. And then again, you just finish that block of hearts there up through row 63, and then change colors for your last block of words. And then after we finished that, we'll pick it back up and I'll show you how to finish off the work. Okay, I am coming up to my very last stitch here in the blanket. So let me put that in. All right, so now when we look at the blanket, we have our hearts block, our block that says hugs, another hearts block, and then the block that says love. Now you can see how each of these blocks is separated by the kind of double bobble border, so each color here, and we have very clean, nice letters and hearts, and then on the border we have the single crochets outside and above and below. So it's a nice kind of framed look there. Now it's time to finish our blanket. So let me put my hook back in here. All right, so I'm going to cut off my yarn, and then I do just a chain and pull it through to finish off, and then I pull that as just kind of a knot tight there, and then it won't really unravel, but we need to weave in the end here. So I have my darning needle or tapestry needle, yarn needle, whatever you want to call it, and I go ahead and thread that through there. Now this being lightweight yarn, it's super easy to thread through there. Okay, now I'm gonna turn my work over here. You can see this is the wrong side because it obviously you cannot see any of the bobbles. So I like to work my tail in from the wrong side. All right, now I'm just gonna go ahead and come back here through this last stitch first. Kind of always like to start like that, and then I go from there and weave in my tail. You don't have to be super precise. There's not really a right way to do this. I kind of like to follow my stitches, so I kind of go under, over, and then across, and same, and just kind of shove your needle in there. Basically you're just weaving in this tail so that it doesn't come out, and you can pull it pretty tight because then you can kind of stretch it back out after. And then we just do that all the way around, and you can go straight across this row, or you can go down into previous rows. Again, there's not really a true right way that I've seen that's like, this is the way that you have to do it. So whatever is going to secure that, and then just go ahead and go across here. And I kind of do quite a few stitches, pull it through, and then do it again. And so just keep going until you have most of that tail weaved in. I feel like that's a pretty good amount, so I'm going to go ahead and take my needle out, my scissors, cut it off there, and I have it pulled pretty tight, so I have just a tiny bit extra there, but then when I pull this back out to square it off, you can't see it at all. Now I do need to do that same thing for my very beginning tail that I had here. I have all this extra kind of fuzz, so I'm just going to actually cut that off. And then do the same exact thing here. Let's see if I can get this through. It's kind of fuzzier, which makes it a little harder, but still pretty easy with this thin yarn. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over so that I can work from right to left, just because that's easier for me. And just kind of go into this first row of single crochets here. And again, you kind of just go in and out of the stitches. And do it until it's worked in. Okay, one more here and then should be good. All right, there we go. And then let me go ahead and trim off that excess there. And there we have it.
Thank you so much for watching the video tutorial on how to make my Crochet Cuddly car seat baby blanket. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. If you'd like to see more inspiration, just go ahead and subscribe to the Crafty with Ashley YouTube video channel, and you'll get notified with all of my videos. I'd also love to see your finished project, so please just drop me a comment below with pictures of your project once you made it. Thanks.